Hey guys, the other day while I was scrolling through X, I found this very useful post someone shared about a series of prompts they use with Grok to plan for any software project. So essentially, before start building any software project, they would have a series of 4 prompts to get the user personas, the design map and design document, the feature specs and information architecture, as well as user stories and acceptance criteria for each page, all the references needed for them to start building the project itself. Now, these prompts are awesome. I will link the link to the post in the video description for you to have a look. But the thing is, I recognize that many people still use this series of prompts very manually, meaning every time they want to use this UX design workflow, for example, they would copy every single prompt like this and into ChatGPT or Grok, then replace these placeholders with their actual inputs for the actual context, and like start and do this manually for every single prompt in the series of prompts they have. That process, although there's nothing wrong with that, but it's very tedious and time consuming. Imagine having to manage all of these big prompts, and every time you need to use this, you need to copy the whole thing, paste into the chat panel, the placeholders with the information, and you have to keep doing this again and again until you finish the whole process. But what if there's a better way? It's 2025, and instead of having to manually entering your prompts every time like this, you can actually build a multi-agent workflow. And in this video, let me show you how you can turn this process here into a multi-agent workflow on mypal.io, so that next time you have to run this process, you will just need to enter the ideas, the technical aspects, and the market analysis, and then one click of a button and you will get every single thing in this flow without having to all the prompts or manually replacing any variables. The same approach I'm about to share with you can be applied to any other use case, not just this UX design workflow. As long as you have a series of prompts that you repeatedly use, you can turn it into a multi-agent workflow on MyPal to automate this process, so you can actually focusing on getting the results rather than tediously entering the prompts. Okay, the platform we are going to build for this purpose is mypal.io. mypal.io is a platform for you to build specialized AI agents and multi-agent workflows that essentially connect multiple AI agents together in a multi-step process. So this process you are seeing is a multi-step process, so we can totally turn it into a multi-agent workflow on MyPal. My favorite thing about MyPal is that to set up a new workflow, you don't have to do things manually at all. All you need to do is to describe the process either in plain text or by visualization of the process you want to automate, and MyPal will set up the initial multi-agent workflow for you based on which you can further adjust later on. So since this person has already prepared this very clear visualization, what I can do is that I can actually screenshot this and open the new workflow button on MyPal and paste the screenshot here. And then I can click Generate with AI and let MyPal handle the initial setup for me. Okay, so here it is. MyPal set up a workflow that begins first with a gather context that requests input from human for these fields. That's correct, because the AI won't know about these fields. You are the ones to know about these information because it's specific to your context. And then the next step is to analyze the personas based on this information, then generate sitemap and design doc, and then feature requirements and information architecture. That's very correct. As you can see here from the diagram, analyze personas, generate sitemap, design doc, feature requirements, and information architecture. So the AI is doing it right. And then in the next step, the AI, this is actually a loop, as you can see here. For each page in the list of pages from the information architecture here, it will create user stories and acceptance criteria. This is correct too, because if you look at the visualization here, the visualization essentially says that we will need to repeat this user stories and acceptance criteria for every single page planned from the steps here. So that's correct. And then the human can step in to review and approve before they can start building. Actually, I think I can remove this start building step, because the start building step here would be done elsewhere, not by the AI, but maybe with the development team or some other apps, because this workflow is not designed for coding entire app. So I'm gonna remove this here. We also don't really need this step, because when you run this workflow on MyPal, you can always like edit or regenerate the results whenever needed, so that you can make sure the every single thing here is fitting with your requirements. Now, for each of the steps here, we can actually take the prompts prepared shared by Ted to train each steps better. So as you can see, for each of these steps, MyPal, you can actually assign an agent to do this step, or leave it blank and we will create one for you. Now, what this means is that each of these steps will have a specialized AI agent trained for the job, take over the step for you. Now, if you leave this blank, it's okay too. MyPal will automatically set up the agents for you. But since Ted already prepared all the system prompts we can use, like you are a world-class UX designer and blah blah blah, we can actually use prompts from him. So let me go to show more. Go to each prompt here, copy the prompt. This is a very detailed and awesome prompt. Copy this prompt, and then choose select an agent, start a new agent. So this is an agent recommended by MyPal for user persona analyst. This is quite good, but now since we are wanting to use a test prompt, we can use it here. So let's just copy that. And then actually I saw that for the ideas and the current technical aspects upfront, we actually don't need this here. This information do not need to be stay within the system background, because all the technical aspects and ideas and market analysis are variables. It vary for each time we run the workflow, so it shouldn't be in the background. The background is persistent memory, so things and instructions and requirements that never change. So that's why I'm removing it from the background. And then in the output format, actually, I think the prompt, here, I think this whole part is about the output format of this agent. So I can put all the examples and the structure in the output format here, so that our user persona analyst can use. So, okay, and then I can actually assign a model for this step. This guy recommends Grok models, but my favorite model is actually Claude 3.7 Sonnet, so I'm gonna use it here. On MyPal, you can choose any model of your choice, be it from OpenAI, Google, Llama, Perplexity, or DeepSeek to do each of these steps for you. And then I can just save this agent and assign that user persona analyst agent to the analyze persona step. And then I will repeat the same approach for the rest of the workflows. Next step is generate sitemap and design doc. This is the initial setup suggested by MyPal, but I can go to X again to take the very detailed prompt by Ted to do that. Save it here. Let's do the same for feature requirements and information architecture too. Lastly, the user stories and its criteria. I can also take the example of a good user story with acceptance criteria from Ted. With this example, the AI will surely give out much better results. And then save that. And now, as you can see, all the 4 steps in my workflow already have been assigned to an agent trained for the job to do the step. So I can create the workflow and let it saved into my workspace on MyPal. Now we are redirected inside the workflow builder on MyPal, where you can go through each step again and make any adjustments if you want before starting to use this workflow. So first step here, as you can see, is a human input node, meaning this workflow will request and collect input from human for these fields: ideas, technical specs, and market analysis. You can also mark something as optional or required if you want, or change the type of the input here. So for this input, I want it to be text, but maybe there many are the times that you may want the input to be a URL or a document or checkbox or a select. You can do so on MyPal too. Just change the type of the input and you're good to go. And then the first step is analyze personas, done by our user persona analyst. And the task I'm giving it is to analyze the provided context to identify and describe user personas given all of this information. So this information, the purple highlighting, signifies that these variables would come from elsewhere, come from a human input value, and that human input value comes from the gather context step, the last step, so that when we run this workflow, MyPal will automatically replace all of these variables with the value from the gather context without you having to manually replacing these variables yourself. Similarly, we have the sitemap and design document creator to create a sitemap and design document based on the analyzed personas. But actually, I think we still need this sitemap and design document creator to keep in mind the initial context provided by user so that it can provide more relevant results. So I'm gonna give it mention all the thing here, the idea, okay, the product idea here from this. Another thing is technical aspects from this, and lastly market analysis from this. So I'm using this add symbol to mention the variable coming from the gather context step. And then let me check this feature requirements, develop feature requirements and information architecture based on the generate sitemap and design doc. Actually, I think it should have access to all of this information too, so that it will provide more comprehensive and relevant. So I'm gonna paste it here. So paste all of the mentions here, so that this agent will have all the context it needs to produce meaningful results. And then the last is the user stories and acceptance criteria, where for each page in the list of pages from this generated from this step, my user story and acceptance criteria creator will create the user stories and acceptance criteria too. So I think that's pretty good, but I think we need to, again, this step, I think this agent should have access to the initial context so that it can produce more relevant information. So I'm gonna, for your reference, I will provide all of this so that the agent can refer to and keep in mind when doing the job for me. So now that my workflow is ready, I can, whenever I got a new project I wanna run, I wanna build, I can just run this workflow like this and provide some inputs here to kickstart the workflow. So let's say my next software project is an AI app for let's say my next project is an AI app for planning and generating AI blog posts. This is the data I can use to run the workflow for you to see. So I can paste the ideas, then the technical specs here, and then the market analysis here. And then once the inputs are ready, I can click continue. Now the workflow will be triggered first by the user persona analyst, which will analyze the provided context and suggest the user personas for me. So as you can see, it's suggesting everything and it's very correct. It correctly follow the template of the user personas for me. And then after this step, analyze personas, another one generate sitemap and design doc for me. This is the sitemap and this is the design document, as you can see, for my app. And then another step will prepare the feature requirements and information architecture for my app here. And then I have the loop user stories and acceptance criteria to loop through every single page in the app. And then it will, so all of these pages are coming from I think the feature requirements and architecture, information architecture here. And it will loop through each to prepare the user stories and acceptance criteria. So as you can see here. So this is the first page. This is second page. The page outline generation, and then draft writing, and more. And it will keep doing this until it finishes all the sitemaps, like all the pages available in the sitemap. So that's it. As you can see, now to run this workflow, I don't have to enter the prompts and replace the placeholders with the actual values myself. Once I set this workflow up and running, every time I got a new project, I can just click run and provide the inputs for that project and click start, and then I will get all of these results in one go without having to manually intervene every time. The only thing I need to do is to double check, like proofread all of these results, double check them. If there's anything I don't like or I want to change, I can always like regenerate here or edit the here. And I can also share this workflow with all my team members or publish it as a form so that anybody can use this workflow without a MyPal account as well. So that's it for today. I hope you find today's video helpful. So if you haven't tried multi-agent workflow, it's time for you to go ahead and try it now on mypal.io. It's 2025, so I hope you will stop using AI the manual and tedious way and start like putting your AI agents to work in multi-agent workflows for that, like this, to maximize their potential. Okay? Thanks for watching, and I will see you in my next videos. Goodbye.